I've seen a ton of real estate agents in the past 5 years that were successful agents that are out of the business working W-2 jobs now because they relied solely on their real estate sales income and they had bad years. Welcome back to Agent Investor, the only podcast that helps real estate agents get off the real estate roller coaster by investing in real estate, by having them do things in just a few minutes a day that are not only going to help them invest in real estate, but also grow their traditional real estate business. And today I'm going to talk about what I think is one of the worst things when it comes to investing or the investing world, which is the over-promotion, over-hyping of what life will be like if you invest in real estate. Now, that might sound odd from somebody who is constantly promoting agents investing in real estate, but I want to be clear, and I think that most of you know this about me that have been following me for long enough. I am very much a no-hype person, very much a black and white. This is exactly what will happen. I don't like to paint, rosy, sunshine and rainbows and all that good stuff for stuff that isn't realistic. So I encourage everybody to invest in real estate. I do believe it'll change your life, but not necessarily in some of the ways that I find to be disingenuous in the investing world. And I kind of like, I've got a lot to say on this topic. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but I see this so often in conversations that I have with people who want to start investing in real estate. In fact, I had somebody enter my Inner Circle coaching program, and he asked me this maybe about a year or two ago. And he said something along the lines of, I said, what are your goals? I said something along like the lines of like, what are your goals? And they said, my goals are to have $1 million of passive income per month coming in. And listen, this was a young person. I can say this now that I'm 43 years old. I had huge, enormous goals. And I do not ever want to tell somebody that they can't do something. But when we talk about making $1 million a month passively, when we are at like ground zero, haven't done an investing deal yet, I know that is stemming from the hype, the incorrect hype, the sales hype from other real estate investing coaches that are trying to sell programs. And so I want to be very clear about this, and I want to have a good conversation and talk about what real estate investing will do for you. Not, the pie in the sky. I'm going to drive, I'm going to have a private, jet, pulling up and picking me up and driving me everywhere. But what will actually happen to your life and how will it happen if you start investing in real estate? I think if you stay with me today, you're going to find that the outcome is really, really good. But I do want to be clear that this stuff does take work. This stuff is not overnight. This stuff is predictable and reliable, and you will get really, really good outcomes. But I do want to say that I personally want to not only separate myself from those gurus who really just, they're promoting stuff that's fantasy. They are promoting quick changes. They are promoting multiple zeros at the end of your bank account that are unlikely to happen in a short window of time. And I just want to say that as far as separating myself from those type of people, everybody that follows me, I'm going to teach you the methods and strategies that are achievable for most people, for almost every real estate agent that's out there, if they put in the work, right? Not for the 0.0000001% of people that invest in real estate, right? And if you follow the strategies, implement them, have some crazy luck, yeah, you could be, at the end of this worth over $50 million. Could you? Yeah, absolutely. But everything would have to go right. You'd have to have a long, long window of time. and you'd have to give up a lot and have some luck along the way. But my message is not necessarily on how to get there. Not that you can't get there, not that those aren't good goals, but what I preach, what I practice, what I do, and what I help focus people on is to invest in real estate to change your life, not necessarily to get to a crazy net worth, but to get to a net worth and to get to enough passive income where you've got freedom of time, right? That's my main message, to have a better life, freedom of time, to be where you want, when you want to be there, to not have to do things that you hate, and to have a really great life, okay? And not necessarily so that you can, be driving a $500,000 car or live in a $10 million house. Again, I'm not saying that stuff isn't possible, but I want to talk about what's realistic. Like, how does this happen? And why invest in real estate? And what do the changes really look like? If you're an agent, who's making enough money to survive, or maybe saving a few bucks, or even if you're an agent who's not even making enough money full time, like, what does this actually look like? So I want to have like a real truthful conversation, like, by the way, like I always have, right? I tell it to you guys straight. I tell it real. There's no exaggerations. This is just conservative, factual information. So I'm going to tell you kind of what investing in real estate is really going to look like, how it's really going to change your life, how long it really takes. And yeah, like, will somebody out there get a private jet? I don't know, maybe. Like, maybe, but that's not going to be the majority. I'm going to tell you what the majority of people who follow our procedures are going to end up with. And then you can make the decision for yourself, like, is this a worthwhile journey to be in, right? And maybe some of you at the end of this will say, no, it's not. Maybe I need that private jet. Maybe I need to have, a $500,000 car. If that's what you're gunning for and you need it in a short period of time, heck, I'll tell you, I don't know how to help you, right? But if you're willing to work hard, if you're willing to do it over numerous years, and if you're willing to be okay with the outcome in 3, 4, 5 years, that you have enough passive income coming in to pay your bills, like, that's where I would want to start. And that's what my message is. That's what I teach and preach. And that's, all about, this stuff. By the way, I should mention really quick before I get into this, that we are having a free upcoming event on how to spend, believe it or not, 2 minutes or less per day to find real estate investing flip deals. You can register for that event at www.agentinvestorevent.com. By the way, if you listen to this podcast way into the future and you hear that and you look and you go to www.agentinvestorevent.com, you will always see an event, right? If you missed that last event, we're always hosting new events. That's the URL to go to, www.agentinvestorevent.com. All right, so what can you expect by investing in real estate? I like to tell my story a little bit because my story is going to reflect most people, because I have a regular, normal, average story. Most of you know, I didn't come from money. My parents, were never able to give me any money. I started out as a CPA, and I wanted to own my own business. I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, wanted to be on my own, and I got my real estate license in 2005. When I started selling real estate full time, I was absolutely scared. And pretty much every single month, I stressed out on whether or not I'd be able to pay my bills. Luckily, I was young enough that I didn't have a ton of bills, but it still stressed me out every single day, every single month, because I never knew whether or not I was going to be able to continue in real estate full time. That was my big thing in the beginning. There is nothing wrong with working a W-2 job. There's nothing wrong with having a job that you love. I personally wanted to be self-employed. And my biggest fear in the beginning years of my business, and it's kind of like one where I look back and laugh because I shouldn't have been so obsessed and nervous about this, but I was always nervous that I was going to have to go out back and get a W-2 job working for somebody else. Funny fear to have. I love being independent. I love owning my own business. I love running my own business. But that was my fear. Okay. And every month that went by, I signed my first investing deal in 2008. I got paid on it in 2009. So for three and a half years, every month that would go by, I was nervous about having to go back and getting a job because guess what? I talk about the real estate roller coaster a lot, and I know a lot of agents will understand this, but you can have a pipeline that looks pretty good, right? You could be working with 4 buyers and 3 sellers. You could have a reasonable pipeline, and it doesn't always mean that you're going to make money from that pipeline. Like buyers decide they're going to wait a little bit longer, or sellers that you thought were going to turn into deals, they want too much money for their house or whatever. So real estate agents are constantly in this struggle where you're working with as many people as you can. You hope that they all get to the closing table. They all don't. Newsflash, I know you all know this. They all don't get to the closing table. You're always out hunting for new business. Sometimes you get super busy and you feel like, things are going great. And then other times you can't even get meetings. Like you're having trouble struggling to even get a face-to-face buyer or seller appointment. Right. And so I lived like that for three and a half years. Never really thought super a lot about investing other than knowing I wanted to do it until I did my first deal. And you all know the story, right? The story is that I went on a seller appointment from somebody in my sphere, 13 Cameron Ave in Somerville, Massachusetts. I knocked on the door, tried to list the house. The seller was a hoarder, told me that she would not be having open houses. She would not be having a sign out in front of her house. And I would need to find her a buyer to buy the property without going in it. Now, I tried to convince her to let me list because that was the only way I knew how to make money. The short version, and I tell the story a lot, so I'm not going to belabor the point, but the short version is that I ended up flipping it, me and my 2 partners, and we made $115,000. And it wasn't until we signed the deal in end of 2008, made the money in 2009. And it wasn't until the beginning of 2009 where we actually made the money, put the money in our account, that I actually personally had enough money to have any breathing room. And I remember the feeling. It was a great feeling. I'm a little bit of a nervous person. I'm a CPA. I'm kind of a conservative person in general. And I remember the feeling of putting that money in my bank account and thinking, I don't need to close a deal next month. Now, I wanted to close a deal. And what didn't mean I was going to stop working hard, but it meant I didn't need to. And having that pressure taken off of me of not needing to close a deal, I will tell you, in and of itself, just that one thing was worth it to invest in real estate. And I did it by accident. Okay. So when you go from being an agent to an agent investor, it won't happen overnight, right? Because again, even though I did that first deal and I had a little bit of money in my savings account now, I still didn't have enough money so where I could say, well, I could have a bad year or I could have a bad 6 months. No, I now had enough money in my account where I could say I could have a bad few months, right? That was it. But you know what? That felt really, really good. Not as good as a guru who's promoting that you could fly around in a private jet, but really good to me at that moment. And so in that first year, after I did that first flip, you guys will all feel this way after doing your first or second or third flip. As soon as you close it and you get that big chunk of money, like in our partner deals, you'll be like, how do I do another one? Right? The average fix and flip partner deal that we do with agents, we split on average $80,000, which means if you partner with us, you will get $40,000 on average. Yes, it's going to be either more or less, right? I'm not making any representations on exactly how much the flip will make if you partner with us. If you want to learn more about partnering with us on deals, by the way, go to www.partnerwithagentinvestor.com. Again, that's www.partnerwithagentinvestor.com. And you can watch my on-demand webinar on what it looks like to flip houses with us. So going back again, how's real estate investing going to change your life? So I did that first deal. All right. Now our next thought, me and my two partners are, how do we do more of these? And by the way, I didn't flip 50 houses in my first year. Guess what? My next flip, I'm going to be wrong on this, but it was probably about 6 months later. Wasn't immediately, even though we did that first deal. Now we were thinking, we were learning and we were studying and we were like, oh shoot, if we can do one deal and make 115, how can we do another one? Took us maybe 6 months to do our second deal. And now all of a sudden, that savings that could get me through a few months could get me through 6 months, right? The second year we did 4 or 5, right? So now we're getting to a point where it's like, oh, good. I got enough savings in my account where, because I kept selling real estate, right? You keep selling real estate, you keep making money, right? And I had enough after that second year, roughly. Again, don't quote me on these exact time frames. I could try to figure it out, but I'm going high level here. So after that second year, I had enough money where it's like, oh, I could actually have a bad year. And how did that make me feel? Well, that made me feel incredible. Incredible. I could sell 3 houses this year, 2 houses this year, and still not have to go back to work, right? That anxiety, that stress, that constant pressure, that, you're working with the buyer and they tell you, oh, hey, I'm going to wait until next year. Instead of it being like complete, oh my goodness, I need to drop to my knees. I'm in such pain. Now it's like, okay, no problem. Let's work together next year. By the way, it helps you be a better agent because there's no pressure for you to get a deal done. It's more about, as it should be, like what makes sense for your client. It's harder to be what makes sense for your client when you need money. Okay. That's just a fact. It just is. So after that second year, I had enough where I didn't need to have a great year. Sometime around that third year, we had enough money saved up where we were like, oh, we should invest this. And we invested in a 5-family. I think the address was 80 Baker Street in Lynn. 80 Baker and Lynn sounds correct. I think that was our first one. I'm actually going to look it up now to see. And it was a foreclosure and we bought it. I think it was a 5-unit. Yep, it was a 5-unit. We actually eventually ended up selling that property. This is nuts. Did they convert these into condos? Potentially. 80 Baker Street in Lynn. We bought it for $250. And this is fast forwarding. I'll come back to life in a minute, but we bought that thing for $250. We ended up selling it for $770 in 2021. So we had somewhere near $500,000 gain. And I know I'm fast forwarding. I didn't mean to do it like that, but just kind of goes to show you, right? Like, yes, you want to hold on to these passive assets, but sometimes you sell them and you get a big chunk of income. And what do you do with that? For us, we invested into apartment buildings. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. So in the third year, we had enough to start investing in those. So in the third year, we were making our money, selling real estate. We get the big chunks of income. And now after we got 80 Baker Street renovated and fixed up and rented, now in addition to that, we were getting a monthly distribution from our rental income, net of expenses. So by the third year, we had 3 revenue sources. We had our own commission income, we had our fix and flips, and now we had rental income. Okay. Now at that third year period, could we quit selling real estate? No. Was the passive income paying our bills? No, it certainly wasn't. I mean, I don't remember what we were netting because we were dividing it by 3, but it wasn't more than a few $100 a month each. Right? That wasn't going to get me to retire anytime soon. But what we did do is we bought 80 Baker. We made it nice. We got it fully rented. And after we were done, we pulled our money back out that we could then use to buy more rental assets. And we did. And again, this stuff, I talk about this all the time. Investing in real estate is not linear, right? It is exponential, which means because at year 3, we were struggling to even buy one multifamily asset. But by year 4 and 5, when we owned a few more, now we continue to pull the money out of the properties. Now we could buy more than one at a time. It accelerated, right? So what did that do by years like 5 or 6, roughly? By years 5 or 6, roughly, now we had enough units where that monthly dividend from the passive assets was paying, for the most part, our bills, right? Did it exactly cover our bills? I don't know, plus or minus a little bit, right? That wasn't necessarily like our ending goal. Our ending goal was to continue to do this, to continue to sell real estate for a living, to continue to do fix and flips when they came along and start targeting them more. And with all that excess capital, start investing passively in assets. And I didn't even mean to do this, but the 80 Baker is a good example, right? We bought it probably in 2012, 2013, something like that, and then sold it for a $500,000 profit 7 or 8 years later, right? So we do always talk about rental real estate as a way just to make monthly income, but it is also a good way to get huge chunks of income as these assets appreciate. And listen, I know a lot of people think the real estate market is high right now. I do too. But the reality is that inflation is never going to go away. Now, inflation, the inflation percentage, it might go down. Like it might go down a little bit. But when you hold real estate for a long enough period of time, like 10 plus years, I'm pretty confident in this. I don't think there's ever been a 10-year window where you bought something, held it for 10 years, and it's going to be worth less than what you paid for it. Because of inflation, because of so many other things. But as long as you're cash flowing on day one, now your cash flow goes up every year. By the way, like that 80 Baker, I told you was only making us maybe a few $100 a month when we first bought it. By the time we sold it, it was making us over $1,000 a month each. Why? Because rents go up, right? They don't go always 100% go up, but they directionally go up over a long period of time. They actually jumped a lot in the greater Boston area during that time. And they're always going to go up. Like they're always going to go up unless there's a major issue within the town that you buy in, the location, the city. Like, yeah, could that happen? But it almost never does happen, right? Happened in Detroit going back, but like it doesn't usually happen. All right, so I'm going a little bit off topic or down some rabbit holes here, but so I want to stay focused and focusing just say, like, what did that do for me? What did that do for me and my partners? Well, think about my life change. This is why we do it, not the numbers. I gave some numbers. I gave some examples. Yeah, 500,000, this, that. Those are just numbers. Let's talk about life and how my life changed. Okay. Early 2005, going to work every day, hating my job. I literally can remember sitting at my desk and being like, oh, thinking in my head, would it be weird if I got my third coffee of the day because I just want to get away from my desk? I hated my job. I didn't like my job. And a lot of you are in that position. A lot of you have already gone past that because you're already self-employed. But that was like day one for me. I didn't like my job. So therefore, I didn't really love my life because guess what? You work 40 hours a week. My job is more than 40. It was probably more like 60 hours a week plus commute time. Now I'm at like 60 hours a week. So I'm spending most of my waking hours doing something related to a job I didn't like, right? Then I was self-employed. Well, I loved that. That was cool. I had independence and that was fun. But I always had financial fear, financial anxiety. That wasn't fun. I guess if I had to pick, I'd rather have the self-employed job with the financial anxiety than the safe, secure job, but hating it. But yeah, then I started flipping and now I get these big chunks of income. Now I have some safety and security behind me. So the big change there is once I started flipping in addition to just selling, the big change there was now I went from having huge financial anxiety being self-employed to be like, okay, I know I'm not necessarily going to have to go back and work for somebody else. That was huge for me. That was enormous. I've seen a ton of real estate agents in the past 5 years that were successful agents that are out of the business working W-2 jobs now because they relied solely on their real estate sales income and they had bad years. You think about this, right? I can almost guarantee if you're listening to this, you probably yourself know at least one agent. Wow, they were like, that agent was earning 6 figures and then all of a sudden they had a bad year and now they have to go out and get a job. When you're adding the fixing and flipping component to it and you're making 20, 40, 60, 50, 10, 30,000 dollars at a time, now all of a sudden you've got savings, right? And then as time goes on, you turn that into passive income. Now, some of you may not want to own rentals. There's a lot of other ways. Like once you get $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 into your Fed account, there's other ways to invest. You can invest in syndications. We offer syndications. You can invest in the stock market. You can invest in CDs. Like there's a lot of ways that you can invest. I personally believe that owning rental real estate is a really good way to do it. So I talk about that a lot, but wouldn't you love to have the problem where you've got so much money sitting in your savings account that you're like, I should put this money to work? It's really hard to get there when you're just selling real estate. It really is. Even for the best agents, right? It is really, really challenging. So you do this, and over a 4 or 5 year period, you build up enough passive income that you're paying your bills. And now you get to a point where, oh, wow, like I could actually take 3 months off if I want. Now, I never did that. I never wanted to do that. I like real estate. I like what I do. So I never took 3 months off at a time, but you could when we get there. And to me, again, getting back to the private jet thing, the goal, in my opinion, or at least what I teach and preach, isn't to just buy expensive things and run around and bragging about them, but it's about being able to have the time that you want. And it's really freaking hard to do that as just an agent, right? So with all that being said, like, you know, you see people promoting crazy things. The guru is promoting unrealistic expectations. It's like every other infomercial in the world where they exaggerate the claims of what can be done. But it's funny because even though I just told it to you straight, like the outcome is still really, really good. But you've got to take action on it. Many people hear this and they put it on their car and then they don't do much with it, right? My biggest thing that I would suggest that you do, come out to one of our free events so that you can meet us. You can learn more by going to www.agentinvestorevent.com. Of course, if you have a fix and flip deal along the way and you want to partner with us on it, please reach out to me at any time. You can always text me on my cell phone, 781-486-3000. You have a fix and flip deal, 781-486-3000. But there is a lot to this. And when I say take action, I want to be more clear about this. If everything I said makes sense, you want to do it, you know, the first step is to get educated. Get educated by starting to come to our events at www.agentinvestorevent.com. This stuff is very achievable for anybody. It does take getting educated. It does take learning how to find deals. And especially the event I have coming up, finding deals in 2 minutes or less per day, is a really good one because it's stuff that anybody can do. So, yeah, I hope I didn't demotivate anybody by telling you that you're not going to be driving in a kind of flying in a private jet within the next year. But I hope I did inspire some of the people that were listening today to take action, to get educated. And again, do that by going to www.agentinvestorevent.com. Thank you guys for tuning in, and get off that real estate roller coaster. Start investing in real estate and come to our event. Thank you.